We call this meeting to order for the Brawley City Council successor agency to Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency. Adjourned regular meeting for Tuesday, November 17th at 5 p.m. If we can have the roll call, please.
Here.
Here. Present. Here. At this time, we are going to go into closed session, and we will come back after our closed session and reconvene the open session sometime at 6. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We're going to reconvene our meeting for the Brawley City Council and successor agency to the Brawley Community Redevelopment Agency for Tuesday, November 17th. We were in closed session discussing some confidential matters, and so those were discussed. There is one correction to the agenda, and that is the address on item 1. Actually, it's 1B. It should state the address is 811 South Brawley Avenue, not 881 South Brawley Avenue. So there's that correction.
And it should be 1B.
Yeah, right, and I said 1B. So we're reconvening to open session. Our invocation by Father Edward Horning of St. Margaret Mary's Church. Father, if you could please come up.
Good evening. Ancient blessing from the book of Numbers. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. Let us pray. Lord God, you are the source of all life, love, and friendship. We humbly ask your blessing upon us, our valley, and in particular our city, and the endeavors for this evening. May we have your blessing. May we have your peace, not only here, but throughout the world. We ask this in the name of Jesus our Lord. Amen.
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 Thank you, Father Horning. Our Pledge of Allegiance, if you could please lead us in the pledge. Councilmember Campbell.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's a motion to approve. Is there, and that approval is considering that change. Is that correct, Councilmember Noriega?
With the change to 811 instead of 881.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 6, public appearances and comments not to exceed 4 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item not appearing on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. You are not allowed to make personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or which may invade an individual's personal privacy. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council. Is there anyone here who would like to make a public comment? Please come up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council, and staff. Jason Zara, Brawley Chamber of Commerce. I suspect you noticed we had a bit of a hubbub in the city for the last 10 days or so. So I would like to proudly say that we survived one more cattle call, and I think it was a very successful year. I'd like to thank all of you for your support and for being out there. Now, I was pretty much dragging by the end of the week. I put in a lot of hours and a lot of work. I saw the sun come up at events 3 times in the same week, which is something I won't see for the rest of the year, hopefully. But I have to say, no matter how early I got there, no matter how early I stayed, when I arrived, the city staff was already in place working hard. And when I went home, the city staff was still out on the streets waiting to clean up and to reopen the roads and to do everything necessary. So no matter how hard I feel like I worked that week, the city staff worked even harder and made it all possible for the city of Brawley to have a fantastic cattle call. So please, a big thank you to Public Works, Parks and Rec, Police, Fire, our city manager, and anybody else I might be forgetting on the city staff for all doing the incredible work that they did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zara. We appreciate the comments. Thank you. And good work. On behalf of the Brawley Chamber of Commerce, we're very proud that the events worked out the way they did. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment at this time?
Yes, my name's Eddie Camilo, and I have a question, and it dates way back to 1956, where Congressman Victor Vesey once initiated a proposal that the county of Imperial was exempt from the rules and regulation of the water simply because this is a desert. And I asked the IID, they knew nothing about it. I asked the Board of Supervisors, they never responded. The only thing they told me from the IID is to ask the city attorney that it was in 1956 or 57. Is it still valid? Was it ever initiated into law? Has it been deleted or modified, or was it ever turned into a law?
I've never heard of it, sir. Don't know.
Something related to irrigation.
Well, that's why they told me to ask the attorney to look into it, because they didn't have, they said that there was a record, that it was, the laws that they apply to all the other cities in the state of California did not apply to Imperial County. I don't know if it ever became a law.
We can certainly ask our congressional representatives to research that and have some feedback for you, Mr. Camilo.
I have another question. I went to find out as to how much I was being charged every month for water, and I couldn't find my address of where I've been living there for 35 years. There are two homes on the same property, and the only one that's registered is 105 facing East Street, and mine does not register. It's like it's not there. So I don't know if it's legal or not.
We can certainly get with our finance department, Mr. Camilo, and they would be able to tell you specifically the details on your account.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a public comment at this time?
My name is Tony Perea. I'm against this situation that you're raising the rates because as it is right now, we're in a drought.
Right.
You know, how can you raise rates when we're in a drought?
If I can interrupt you just for a second. Right now is the time to make a public comment on anything that's not appearing on the agenda. When we open the public hearing, there'll be an opportunity to make those comments. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment on any item that's not appearing on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may request consent items be considered separately at a time determined by the mayor. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 8, the continued public hearing. It's conduct public hearing in accordance with Proposition 218 to consider wastewater and water rates. And it's item 8A, approved resolution number 20. We'll begin the public hearing. It's now open.
Thank you, Mayor Nava, members of the council, and members of the community here today. My name is Rosanna Bayonmore, and I'm the city manager for the city of Brawley. This evening's matter before the council and the public is a continued matter regarding our water, wastewater, and stormwater rates in the city of Brawley. And this evening, I have with me a number of parties that are going to assist with delivering some content to you. We have our city engineer, Yasmin Arellano, our finance director, Ribi Walla, and Doug Dove, Bardo Wells Associates, who performed the water and sewer rate study on behalf of the city. So there's a lot of history to this rate study. It's been a public process, and what we aim to do this evening is give you a quick recap of where we've been, and also respond to some of the issues that occurred or arose in the last public hearing, and follow the direction of our city council to further describe a number of issues and make the information a little bit more accessible to the public. So the rate study process was first reported out to the council in February of 2015, and you'll see we've had 4 public meetings where we've brought content to the city council and we've requested feedback and direction. Back in February, we presented a series of options based on the needs of our water and wastewater infrastructure. And at that time, the council provided staff direction to only focus on critical capital improvement projects for water and critical projects for wastewater. In June of 2015, we brought the project list to the council and the proposed rate structure as it was beginning to take form. At that time, there were a number of issues that caught the council's attention, and we were instructed to approach differently the first year of rate increases. We were asked to reduce the first year of impact and smooth out the increases over the 5-year period that's considered in the rate study. We were also asked to look differently at how we established residential water rates, because so many of our customers are residential. We were directed to look at some different ways to capture water consumption based on the size of the connection. So you'll see the results of some of those efforts today. Following the June 16th meeting, we moved on to a July 21st meeting, and we brought to the council a potential action item, which we asked for your direction to pursue the Prop 218 process. And so there's a lot of rules that have to do with how a city implements rate increases. There are notifications that are required for every property owner in our city limits, and we advised the council of what the format of the Prop 218 process was and asked for permission to move forward with noticing and setting a public hearing date. And on September 15th was that public hearing date, and that public hearing allowed the council to hear from approximately 20 members of the public in attendance who provided testimony on the record. The primary concerns that were brought forward were, in addition to objecting to any rate increase, was a concern that renters as opposed to property owners had not been adequately notified. There were also concerns about whether we had enough sensitivity to the primary Spanish-speaking audience. And there was additional information requested from the council of staff to further describe the existing infrastructure challenges and what capital projects were proposed to be performed as a part of the rate increases. So at the September 15th meeting, the council gave us instructions to expand the notification audience and to come back with a presentation that gives more detail for the benefit of the council and the public as to what capital projects we were going to complete as a result of the rate increases. So as discussed, today's potential action may culminate in the approval of a city council resolution to raise water and sewer rates. But before we get there, our aim is to describe to you what the notification process has been, to provide an in-depth description of our capital projects and existing infrastructure challenges. We will have our billing expert, our finance director, come forward and show council and the public how a typical single-family residential is affected in their billing statement and how a customer under the new proposed billing structure would be affected. At that point, the council will have an opportunity to invite additional public comment as part of the public hearing process. And once that hearing is closed, staff and consultant will be prepared to answer any questions from the audience or from council. So the outreach effort that occurred following the September 15th meeting included mailing out 5,600 utility billing inserts in English and Spanish to all of our utility billing customers. So as I mentioned, Prop 218 requires that we notify the owners. So some of the owners may have been in receipt of a second notice that came in the utility billing insert, but we also would have had the opportunity to inform renters that reside in our city limits. So the 5,600 notices went out in last month's billing cycle, and we also featured community announcements on the radio and in various published newspapers of the Imperial Valley. Those included El Sol del Valle, KXO Radio, the Desert Review, and the IV Chronicle. Okay, so there were 5 reasons why increases were needed that we touched upon at the last public hearing meeting date. For today's conversation, we're going to focus on items 1 and 2 because those were the areas where the greatest number of questions came up from the council as well as the public. And just for a moment, I want to note for those of us who for those in the audience who are arriving, we have printed materials available that go into detail in each of these topics, and we certainly welcome your access of that information. And with that, I'm going to hand off to our city engineer, Yasmin Arellano.
Thank you for that.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. Only the most critical water infrastructure projects were considered in this rate increase. The original list of water capital improvements projects needed total over $93 million in water capital projects. From this list, staff selected the problem areas to mitigate, resulting in the critical, which is this list, the critical capital improvement projects list, hereby presented in the amount of $9.26 million. If I may skip directly to the pictures, I would like to explain the projects from there. In the previous list, we have 4 projects that address cast iron pipeline replacement, which is the Andrita Circle Waterline Replacement Project, the South 14th Street Water Main Replacement Project, the Southwest Waterline Replacement Project, and the Annual Water Valve Replacement Project. This slide shows a typical cast iron cold weather crack. Over 50% of the city of Brawley water distribution system consists of cast iron pipelines. These pipelines range in diameter from 4 inches to 14 inches, and they're typically located in older sections of the city, such as the downtown area, the northeast area, and the southwest areas of the city. Over time, the city has been able to address the cast iron pipeline replacement in the majority of the southeast area of the city of Brawley with available CDBG funding, Colonia funding, and other local funds. This slide is also of a cast iron, but it's a different type of break. It's the typical blow-up type of break. You can see the hole on the top of the pipeline. Over time, these pipelines corrode with our existing type of soil, and any variation of internal and external stress on this brittle corroded material can quickly result in a break. This is a result of a cast iron water pipeline break. Aside from the water service interruption, sinkholes contribute to the street and pedestrian improvement collapse, forcing unbudgeted replacement of additional infrastructure in addition to the water pipeline repair. This slide shows our corroded, failed water valves. Corrosion over time contributes to these valves getting stuck, and they typically get stuck either open or closed, making them inoperable. These valves are important to our system because they help provide control to our system and diminish the effect that we have to inconveniences to the residents. I'm going to show you two slides also of cast iron brakes. So it's this one and this one. And this one comes from a water break at the intersection of First Street and Main Street. This one comes from the replacement of a cast iron pipeline project at the intersection of Dogwood and Malin. But on both, what is interesting is that tuberculated material that forms around the interior of the pipe. And you can see at the end of this pipe, the obstructed path that the water must follow, reducing the ability to distribute water efficiently. And on this one, we can see on the bottom to the left, we can see the obstructed material. So this is a typical cast iron pipeline in our system. This is the Hinojosa water tank. In our list of projects, we have the removal of two tanks, the Hinojosa and the other one at the Public Works Yard. These tanks are considered unused water assets, and they've both been out of commission since the year 2000. We have data that these tanks were constructed around 1925.
1945?
1925.
25.
25, yes, ma'am. This slide shows a typical master meter. This is our standard meter. Our list of projects includes the commercial water meter installation, actually the purchase. This is an important project as it would help determine accurate commercial usage for regulatory reporting purposes, as well as identifying high water users and generating revenue for the maintenance of our water distribution system. This is a typical picture of the variable frequency drives at the water treatment plant. And our list of critical projects includes the installation of variable speed drives. These drives help our distribution system by balancing the water pressure throughout the system, reducing power consumption, and operating the pumps in sequence utilizing pressure and flow. As part also of one additional project that we have listed, it's the replacement of the PLCs, which is actually, the project is called the Water Plant Components Project. The PLCs are called the Programmable Logic Controllers. Our existing PLCs are about 18 years old, and the typical life for these components are 10 years. Our current software is not compatible with the new operating systems, and this replacement of these new components will provide a more redundant and effective water distribution system. Now, going into the wastewater capital improvement projects, we end up with a list close to $6 million. Again, the original list included projects that total approximately $42 million. Again, we got together with staff. We came up with the high priority water projects coming up with this list. And I'm going to skip again to the picture. I'm going to show two slides. It's from the same break. They show pictures of the emergency repair of a deteriorated concrete sewer pipeline in the vicinity of 8th Street. To the point, what should be a sewer pipeline is actually a tunnel, an earthen tunnel in between the manholes. So basically, we have an absence of a sewer pipeline. The advanced age of the pipelines combined with the effects of corrosive gases, corrosive soil, water infiltration, heavy debris, and grease accumulation in the system are likely to be the cause of these pipe failures. We have a project listed, the Adler Sewer Main Replacement, in the list of high priority projects, and that will increase the flow capacity as well as replacing deteriorated sewer lines in this area of town. These two next slides show pictures of manhole collapses at two different locations. We have the same situation with the advanced age of the manholes as well as with the combined effects of corrosive gases are likely to be the failure of these structures. The proposed manhole replacement project listed in the high priority sewer capital projects will reduce emergencies and liability from having this type of collapses. This is a picture, it's a little bit hard to see, but this is a condition of the interior of the wet well at one of our sewer lift stations. The list of projects also includes the rehabilitation of sewer lift station 1 located in the vicinity of South 9th Street.
If I can interrupt you, just for the public's knowledge, can you define what a sewer lift station is?
Yes, usually the sewer lines are designed to run by gravity, but as development occurs in the city, and you're not able to meet the gravity of the sewer pipeline, these lift stations are kind of like elevators of the sewer, where you start again a new design of your new subdivision or an addition to the city, and you convey this water into these lift stations, and you pump them, you lift them into the gravity portion of the system.
Simply put, it's a poop pump, is what it is.
Pretty much,
Yeah, yeah.
yes. Pretty much. So we have 3 lift stations throughout the city. We have this, lift station 1 is our largest one. And lift station 2, located on Richard Avenue, recently rehabilitated with a NatBank grant. And lift station 3 in the Laredo Ranch subdivision, these both lift stations feed into lift station 1 on South 9th Street. So this is a very important lift station for us. This lift station was last rehabilitated about 16 years ago. The project in the high priority list of projects has the wet well rehabilitation as well as the pumping and electrical component. This is a picture of a storm drain catch basin replacement. We have several locations in town that have already collapsed or they're crumbling. So the list of projects also includes the yearly rehabilitation and replacement of these structures.
And Yasmin, the flooded areas, whenever it rains, just so people understand, whenever it rains, for example, near 3rd,
Yes.
that's typically an area that floods. Is that where the storm drains would come into play?
Yeah, but this project, unfortunately, this project is not the separation of the, still in the older sections of town, we still have the combined system. But yes, the older sections of town are the ones that are suffering from the collapse drain inlets. It would assist in removing large debris from the system and conveying the water into the pipeline. At this point, I would like to hand off this portion of the presentation to Ruby Walla, the Finance Director.
Could we back up just a minute?
Sure.
Yasmin, could we back up just a minute to the slide on the lift station?
Yes, sir.
Could we look back at the slide on the lift station?
Yes, sir, right here.
This one here, Sam?
It's
the next
dated
one?
2008. Is there a reason for that?
This was just a typical picture of a sewer lift station.
Okay. So it's just to give us an idea what a lift station looks like?
Right. This is a picture of the interior of the wet well of lift station 2. These pictures were utilized in the grant application for NatBank, and we were successful in obtaining grant funds for the rehabilitation of lift station 2.
Okay. So that one has been that one was redone?
Yes, sir.
Around this time period or something, but the other ones are much older.
Yes, sir. It was rehabilitated about 16 years ago. This one, we started the grant application process in 2008 to come for a successful project completion around 2013-14.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for the visual aids. I know
Thank
that's
you.
something we asked for last time, just to get a better sense of, and the public could get a better sense of what's being discussed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Ruby Walla, Finance Director. These slides are slides that we've presented before, and these are actually taken out directly from our rate study. This gives you the depiction of water and the current water rates for the city, and where we're proposed, and then it gives you a comparison of other jurisdictions, neighboring jurisdictions. As you see, we just jumped right over El Centro. We still stay about the same range. In these rates, in these numbers here, it's giving the assumption of a 3/4 inch single-family residential, assuming 15,000 gallons, with the flat rate and the variable rate consuming those 15,000 gallons to give you that 4970 versus the 5517 for a whole, what a water bill would do. On this, we just highlight and recap is basically what we tried to achieve with this rate study is changing the structure of the water rates, meaning that we have flat rates in our current system being because we have, of course, accounts that are not metered currently, primarily commercial, schools, churches, and so forth. All residential is metered. Any new residential coming into the city gets metered. So what we tried to accomplish is now define accounts by meter size once they actually have a meter versus taking away so much the identifier of a category or a group where we have that more in commercial entities. Where we have mixed use in certain areas of commercial and residential, and then also accomplishing for the mixed use portion a universal consumption rate, where as of right now today we have a commercial rate and then a residential rate. So the whole rate structure on the water side is taking a new shape, taking a new form, and being restructured. And then also during our meetings, as city manager had stated earlier, there was where we did make a presentation at one time to city council on the rates, and we went back and actually looked at a modified rate on still going with the meter size identification, but we varied it between residential and commercial as far as 2-inch meters and below as well. But this is just a picture to give a sample, 15,000 gallons of a 3/4 inch meter for a single family residential. And then wastewater, we have that here as well, where we still stay in the mid-range with the proposed increases. There was no change in rate structure. It's just a straightforward recommended rate increase on this front here. And then what we went ahead and did is a current and proposed, and it's going to be very small to read, and it's just to give a depiction of someone's bill. And then I'll go into another slide where you can actually see the detail. But this would be a current billing with the current rate structure. And this is actually not assuming 15,000 gallons as the Prop 218 notice or the rate study. This is actually just someone's bill that we took, sampled 16,000.
And this is actually my bill for my home, just so everybody knows. It's my bill, 16,000 gallons that were used in, what month is that?
This was May of 2015.
May of this year, so.
So we took this sample billing. So the total billing here was a 123.63. Same time, this period, say if these words weren't, the proposed rates were in effect, this is what, as Mayor Nava disclosed, his bill would have been 131.40 with the proposed rate increases. Here is actually the breakdown in an Excel form where we have on the left side, it's broken down flat service charge. What we are today, in the yellow is a $29 flat service fee. And the next column in blue shows the rate per 1,000 gallons, which is $1.38. And then it shows the sewer rate at $47.21. So as you see at the bottom, the total bill, including utility user tax, is $123.63. with year one proposed rate increases, which we are proposing to be effect as January 1st, 2016 versus the originally noticed date of October 2015. Staff is recommending to go with the January 1, 2016. The rates would look as presented, from $29 for a flat rate to $32.19 as the service fee for a 3/4 to 1-inch meter for single-family residential. The consumption rate would go from $1.38 to $1.53 per 1,000 gallons. And then the sewer rate would go from $47.21 to $49.10. Overall, the bill would go from $123 to $131, with an overall monthly increase of $7.78 for this bill. So that gives a summary of the billing and what a year one increase would look like.
Ruby?
Yes.
Just a question. On the 3/4 inch versus anything else that we have, the 3/4 inch is the one that we utilize. Is that consistent across the city, or are there half-inch connections still?
I think there's minimal. There's just, or do we have any? I don't think we have.
I'm not aware of any half-inch connections. The minimum, it's typically a 5/8 to a 3/4 inch, but ever since we started standardizing, we standardized to, actually, the new subdivisions back 8 years ago, they came in with a 1-inch service. When we started metering, we started metering with a 3/4 inch service. So the standard is a 3/4 inch residential.
Okay, and we don't have anything smaller than that right now?
We used to have the 5/8. We shouldn't have any in the system at this point, unless we have a 5/8 commercial that hasn't been replaced, because we haven't metered the commercial sector.
Right.
That's where we could find a 5/8. But in the residential, single-family and multifamily, we don't have anything smaller than a 3/4 inch.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you. Anything
Are there any other questions from council at this time? I want to allow the public to make their comments. I know I interrupted earlier. My apologies, but now's the time for the public to please come up and state your concerns or your questions to the city council. Again, my apologies for cutting you off, sir.
There's somebody outside.
Yeah, but she didn't want to come in. Rosanna went.
Once again, I stated my name is Tony Perea, and right now we're supposed to conserve, not raise rates. We're in a drought situation. Where do you come out with that idea? You know, right now there's a lot of people that are hard time, senior citizens, poor people. You know, it's a tough time. You know, you can't raise rates right now. That's uncalled for. You know, it's the bottom line. And then you guys did the water treatment plant and said everything was going to be cool. Look at you guys did all the water treatment plant, all that money, millions of dollars, and now you guys want more. And then the meters are here in Brawley now. You guys have enough cash to do what you got to do. Bottom line, it's not right. Put it in your conscience.
Thank you for your comment, Mr. Perea. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make a comment?
Good afternoon. Good evening, Council. Let me direct your water bottle on your tables.
Could you speak into the mic, please? I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Can you
Thank
see
you.
at your bottles in front of you? That's drinking water, and that's not that's city water, but it's not from the water plant. My point is that if this council wanted to improve quality, I'm for it. If it's going to go into actually making a difference in the water. Another thing, National Beef fined $3.7 million last year, 2014. Who paid for all that? You guys did? Yeah, the public did. And they still want more money. City declares emergency because of the water breaks. Yes, they're going to happen, but you got to find out why this is happening before you start asking for money. Last year, IID went before you, and they slashed the acre foot of water from $68 to $25 per acre foot. Remember that? Was there any incentive for the public? None. Brawley leads the way in water conservation. How ironic, asking for more money. Doesn't make sense. It just sounds like there was a lot of salespersons here. Another thing, One World Beef is in town. And they're going to jump on the wagon. They're just waiting for this. They're just waiting for the public to eat it up and say, yeah, we want the rates. What's going to happen is that we're going to start, or I should say that water is going to go to them, not to us. Now, that beef plant, I would call for it to be rezoned back to the county, because the same thing's going to happen as last time. Who's going to pay the fines? The people. And it's up to you to stop that. Yeah, jobs, etc. But people ultimately are going to pay. And like the gentleman said, there's the unemployment rate is 25% on or about. The pay system, or I should say, the structure that's in play right now, it's not conserving, it's penalizing people.
Well, thank you for your comments. Are you done with your comments, sir?
Can I make sure?
Sure. And everyone's comments, the comments that you're making today, we'll try and provide information and clarification for the statements that are being made.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment at this time?
Mayor, City Council, my name is Lori Manus, and I'm here representing Liz Machado from the Ciudad Plaza. Unfortunately, Liz is out of the country and wasn't able to attend the meeting. She was, I think you were given letters from her, but she wanted it read, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Like I said, she's unable to be here right now. However, she wanted to be a voice in regarding this issue. As a business owner and a resident of Brawley, she feels like it's very important. As you can imagine, she doesn't want the rates increased any more than anybody else. With this being said, I realize that we're operating under an old rate structure, not applicable in an old infrastructure. As owner of a small business, I understand and operating in a deficit and in the need of making capital improvements before costly emergencies occur. As you make these difficult decisions and the increased rates, I don't see that there is any other choice. Please be sure that you first reviewed all other avenues. Have any measures been put in place? She's asking that might cut the financial savings, which I'm seeing that as, and I will report back to her on that. Without going into all the same points that she did in her last letter, she would ask that when you review the new rates that you try to capture an actual usage of water and sewer for the Ciudad Plaza. The rate structure that has been put in place, we're paying more than our share right now. We are a small hotel, room-sized apartments that are designed for single and low occupancy, meaning that the entire structure serves 60 or so tenants, and we're not usually at full occupancy. And we're currently paying $3,400 a month for an average of 150 gallons of water. As she referred to in her last letter, just as a reference, the Brawley High School is a flat rate of $856.60. That's 2.25 times more than what we're paying. They have 1,832 students, and we're, like we said, at 60. So lastly, I appreciate that the notices were sent out with the water bills to the city, or the bills, all city water users, explaining the proposed changes. But please, however, keep in mind that our city ends up having to obtain additional finances in the form of loans and bonds measures, that it is going to be the property owner and not the renters that are going to be obligated to this. Again, I know that you care about the city and or you would not be here today on our city council. This is a big responsibility that I know you don't take lightly, but the responsibility is yours to elect, or as our elected officers, to make decisions for the city council that benefit all of us. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone here, anyone else, excuse me, that would like to make a public comment on this matter? No additional comments?
After seeing, Eddie Camilo, after seeing all these pipes and knowing that this city was built around 100 years ago, I think it's time to change the pipes. And in order to do so, you just have to jack up the prices, unless you can get the money from the federal government or the state government. But I think after these ladies here showed the public the kind of pipe and the water we're drinking coming out of those pipes, I think we do need some, not just a hypo, get some money from someplace to fix these pipes. They're over 100 years old.
Mr. Camilo, thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment at this time? I will mention something before, there is another comment, excuse me.
Good evening. Carmen Robles, and nice to be here again. I agree with this gentleman. Our pipes are old. And we want to keep living here, and for that we need water. So what's the solution when you have something old and it's falling apart? What are you going to do? Well, there's only one solution. You're going to try to find revenue. You're going to try to find the money to repair even if it's a little bit at a time. But your goal is to repair. Otherwise, you can't exist. Water is precious. We try to conserve, but at the same time, we need it. We need it for life. And so, you have to make the repairs. And yes, we have very few people here that make big bucks. And those few people, usually, you don't find them living here. So, we don't have rich residents in Brawley. We're counting our pennies. But I appreciate the visuals and Mr. Nava offering his water bill. It's a visual and a picture, you know, it's worth more than 1,000 words. And we know they're out there. It's an old city. And slowly, without killing our people here with the money you're taking or needing, you need to make those repairs. Yes, you can look for loans, you can ask the government for help, all that is good and well. But at the same time, as you plan for new piping for the city, for the future, for the immediate and for the future, also think of where you're getting your money. Don't sell your soul. A lot of things can come when you're taking money from here and there. And your hands may be tied. Maybe not now, but later. So be very cautious as you search for monies. But please also take into consideration the people who live here, who also count their pennies and dollars
Absolutely.
to exist. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robles, for your comments. And I'll ask if there's any other speakers, but I would mention one comment. I sent an article from American City and County. It's a magazine that's for council members and other elected officials. It goes out to all of us. There was an article just recently, it was published November 4th, and it was regarding this specific issue. It was regarding, the need for infrastructure improvements, because many of the improvements in cities throughout the country, not just Brawley, but throughout the country, were made in around World War II. There was an influx of that sort of underground work during that time. And you've seen it described here today, and I'm a very, very visual person. That's why I asked for pictures to be shared with all of you. But you can see it's cast iron pipes. They're very, very old. They're very aged, and they're brittle. And anytime there's a change in weather or any other structural change, we have pipes that collapse. We have water line breaks. But this article, going back to the article that I described, it talks about the fact that cities are not dependent any longer on the federal government or the state government. We're really dependent on one another here. Locally, it's our issue here in Brawley. It's not even El Centro's issue or Imperial's issue. It's us as residents here. We're elected members here of the city council, but we're also ratepayers. We're also citizens of this community. And so as much as I don't want to pay any more money for my water service or to treat the wastewater that I create, I realize that there is a significant need for improvement within our structure here. And so I hope you all see the fact that we're certainly looking at every avenue. I mean, I know people often talk about grant opportunities, and we look at those in our public works directors, very successful in getting as many grant dollars, whether they're state or federal dollars, to improve our community. But not everything specific to water and wastewater improvements, because those grant opportunities don't always exist. So I did want to express my consideration for the comments that are made here today. I know some comments were made with respect to conservation of water and the correlation between conservation and increasing rates. It doesn't seem like it would make sense, but it's quite the contrary. When you have less water being used and less water being consumed, that means not enough money is being collected. And keep in mind, that's a state mandate. It wasn't something that we implemented here locally. It's something that's been directed on us by the state of California. So it's really a state law that we have to follow, and we're following it, and we're appreciative of the fact that people are conserving water in the city of Brawley. But there are a lot of challenges here in Brawley that other communities, even locally, don't face. So I did want to thank you all for your comments here tonight, but keep in mind, we work hard as a city council, as a city staff, and working with the public, making sure we gain input from everyone. With respect to what we do, we try to be as transparent as possible. And as I stated earlier, I'm a very visual person. I think many people are the same way, and they like to see what's being done and what's being considered. So I appreciate the pictures and the visual aids that we had here today. That's a comment that I wanted to make before I called for another public comment or comments from the city council at this time.
I have a comment. I met with a group of senior citizens, and they understand that we have to have an increase. One of the things that they're asking is that their gas bill, their utility bill, and several other bills, senior citizens get a discount. And they want you to consider for senior citizens not the same or equal to the other utilities, but some kind of discount for senior citizens. So that was one message from them to my council members.
Is there anyone from council who'd like to make a comment?
George, I would. Maybe just what I would like to say is through this process, we've been dealing with this for several months now, and there have been a couple of suggestions of ways for us to achieve some of these projects, but not very many. And my question to the public would be is, what are some suggestions that you would have for us to go out and make sure that we maintain our infrastructure? And then the other tough question I would ask, if it was really right down to where we had to make a decision, what services would you like to see reduced to achieve the funds that we need to make sure that the services there and the infrastructure is provided to keep the city whole? I mean, that's, at the end of the day, those are the things that you have to face, because evidently we don't have the money to make sure that we take care of the infrastructure all at one time. It takes time to do some of these things, and sometimes you have to bear in mind that to continue to provide all the services that we do throughout the city, is the public willing to reduce some of those services to say, you know what, that main water line down Main Street is more important than this, or that main water line at our sewer plant is more important than lights over here. And sometimes we have to make those sacrifices, and I haven't heard any of that from the public at all.
Mr. Mayor, also, if I can just tag on to that, I took a few notes on, I wanted to clarify from our last hearing of what the goal is, what we're trying to achieve here as, not just as a council, but as a city. Obviously, changing the rate structure, it does need to be updated. I think is addressed both with what used to be our flat rate, or currently our flat rate users, as well as our metered users. We're making that transition, so that needs to happen. We've addressed our critical infrastructure, at least we've shared it up here so that all of us can see. And I want to state kind of to the public that we took additional time to really dig in and look at every single one of these projects. And I want to reiterate that there are many more that we can actually add to the list. It really is a narrowed down list of projects that need to occur one way or the other, however those projects are funded. So just keep that in mind. Keeping the fund solvent, that keeps being brought up, but I want to just alert the public again and just kind of remind, the water and the wastewater fund are their own funds. They do not, it is not related to the general fund. If we take those precious general fund dollars, which operate our police department, our fire department, our parks and rec, many of the services that we enjoy together, it's really important that not only we keep that fund whole, because that's really what we experience on a day-to-day, but I do want to reiterate some of the comments. The delivery of water and the functionality of your wastewater system, it is just not a fun topic to talk about, yet it's the most precious commodity that we have in this city. So again, just keeping in mind that this is a separate fund. It relies totally on ratepayers. There is not additional funding that comes in for this unless we compete competitively for some of these grant opportunities that we bring up. The other is, obviously I mentioned qualifying for grant funding, but meeting our debt ratio, bond rating, all those things are important because if these funds find themselves in default, really it puts the city in a very tough situation because some of the funding that we're even seeking, we wouldn't even qualify for. So this is one of those tough issues that the decisions we make today affect where we're going to be in 5 years, affect where we're going to be in 10 years. But being sensitive to all the ratepayers, I think that's really important. I want to reiterate that. I don't want anybody here or anybody that's not here that wrote in letters to feel, as a council member myself, that there is no sensitivity to that. There's absolute sensitivity to that. As a matter of fact, if there was an alternative to meet the 5 other issues and topics that I just raised without raising rates, I promise you, politically speaking, that's an easy decision to make. This is a very tough decision, and I think one that, as the mayor brought up, was written in that article. The reason why these topics get pushed down the road because they're politically challenged, because those decisions are made by folks that are elected, and if you can imagine how tough that is for most elected officials to make that decision based on popularity or based on what the right decision is. So I just want to, I want to make sure everyone's mindful of the fact we are absolutely sensitive to all of our ratepayers, including those that are on fixed incomes, which includes my mother. So there isn't any one of us up here that I don't believe are related to or closely connected to somebody that counts their pennies as well as all of us. I also mentioned that if my cable bill or direct TV or whatever service you may have goes up by $10 in a month, it catches everyone's attention. So I just want to reiterate that. But moving forward, it doesn't mean in a decision. I'm hoping we can come to a decision tonight that addresses all the topics that have been brought up in this hearing as well as the previous hearing, but at the same time remain sensitive to the ratepayers.
Thank you. Councilmember Couchman?
Yes, just want to state that on a personal level, I don't like rate increases any more than anybody else, but I live here in Brawley. I currently pay bills on the 3 houses and the water and trash and sewer payments that I make on those, and certainly on a personal level, I'm not necessarily in favor of paying any additional money. However, from a professional level, in serving you as a city councilman and looking at some of the issues that we've had over the last few years, and certainly issues in the current year of water breakages, water outages, sewer line breakages, issues with old equipment, and those types of things, I have to look at the overall picture of this for the city and what's best for the city and the decisions that we have to make there. And, you know, I think everyone up here pays at least one bill as related to the city, so I don't think on a personal level we know what it means to have the increase. And if you look at your bills overall, everything increases on any given time, and everything does increase over time and historically. I will say, we had some comments and people came up and talked, and we know why it's occurring. We know we have old infrastructure. We know we have breakages of pipes. We know we're going to have continuing needs for today and for 50 years from now. We're going to have a continuing need to keep updating our infrastructure. We do it as a city, the county does it, the state does it, the federal government does it. And everybody has that existing problem. The federal government has a lot of problems with infrastructure and old bridges and everything else that they have to deal with. And we have to deal with those issues too. And we have to make some hard decisions up here. And we may not like it, but that's what you task us with when we're elected, and that's what we sometimes have to do. I don't necessarily think that the improvements that we're talking about will result in necessarily a water quality improvement. I believe that the quality of water in Brawley is good, but I also believe that by doing these pipes, we may get better pressure, we may get better quality of water, we may get different things that happen from that, so I think that's important to also look at. As regards businesses coming into town, I would hope that as your city councilman that I would be able to say that each business coming into town will pay their fair share. In other words, they will pay based upon, I believe it's a new industrial rate that we're setting, and I would hope that they would pay their fair share for their water and their sewer, because I think that's only right. And I want to make sure that businesses that may not be paying their fair share, if they're out there, if that's corrected and that things are done correctly in the future for them. I think that by raising rates, I do believe that some people will conserve more water. Not that that's necessarily a good thing, but I think in the state of California right now with the drought, there will be some conservation. I may conserve water based upon the rates that are being increased, because my bill's larger than George's, at least on my primary residence, and I know that I need to conserve water in ways that I haven't looked at yet, but I'm certainly willing to do that.
You probably take longer showers than I do,
That's
Sam.
probably it, I think. Yeah, that's probably it. But I do want to tell you that it's a difficult decision for us, and it's a hard decision that we make up here, but I hope tonight that we will be able to make a decision so we don't continue this along any further. And I look forward to making that decision. I know it's a decision that we have to make.
There is a public comment. If you could come up,
Yes.
please. Thank you, Councilmember Couchman.
Good evening. My name is Genoveva Moreno. And, okay, you're all talking that we need the raises. Yes, okay, I know, and that everything is going up. Okay, but the thing that gets us as Brawley residents is that you guys are just playing with us, because first of all, like to Mr. Campbell's question, for us to say what service we don't need. What about the one thing that we don't need that I'm sure everyone doesn't need is the utility tax? Raise the water rate, raise the wastewater, but what are you guys doing with all the money that you're generating from the utility tax? First of all, when we voted for the utility tax, it was because, like you explained, if we passed the utility tax, we wouldn't have to pay so much water rate or wastewater, that all the money that you were generating from that utility tax, you guys needed it to make the city improvements, all the improvements. We voted for the utility tax. We've been paying you the utility tax, and it's like Mrs. Noriega said, it's not just on one thing. It's on our electricity, gas, the cable, what else? It's four or five things that we're paying utilities tax, and it's a lot of money, like Mrs. Arellano said that, or the city clerk, the water city clerk said, that you send 5,600 letters for the residents. It's 5,600 people, residents, that are paying utility tax on 4 or 5 things, and that's a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money for you guys to spend on all those repairs that you guys need. So if we were to do without one thing, it would be the utility tax, and we would be very thankful if you could get us rid of that utility tax, that extra bill, and go ahead and raise the water, raise the wastewater rate. But then what's happening with the utility tax?
Thank you for your
And then also, you guys are comparing yourself that you like us don't like any increases. Yeah, but what about your salaries? I mean, are you comparing your salaries to our salaries? Or people that are earning like 20,000 a year, or 32 the most? The average family here earns 32,000 a year. Compared to your salaries, I mean, that's nothing.
Well, you know, I would say this, Ms. Moreno, thank you for your comments, and I'll address the comments that you did make. With respect to the utility tax, that does have a sunset, and it generates almost $2 million a year for the city of Brawley to help offset multiple costs in our general fund that are funded by the general fund. And we're working actively within council to see how we can wean ourselves off of that utility tax. So that is already a plan that's in motion. The other aspect, with respect to our bills, I mean, I've had some very, very difficult times financially. I mean, my very close friends know it, and I'll share this with you publicly, not that I need to, but I'm going to share it with you publicly. I've had very, very difficult years, extremely difficult, maybe earning less than what you're describing. And I've had a hard time. So things are better for me now, but I feel the impact just like anybody else. I have bills just like everybody else. I have a mortgage, a car payment, I have a child, I have a wife, I have expenses at home, I have my water bill, I have credit card payments, I have all the other bills that everybody else here in the city has. So I know it's a challenge for everybody, regardless of their income. And you're right, there are people that earn far more than we all do here. But, and they may not, they may scoff at the fact that anybody's even bringing up a counter to a $8 increase or a $15 increase. I certainly do, because I know that anytime I get a bill increase, I've shared this with other council members, whether that's Time Warner or whether that's a phone bill, if it's a $5 change, I'm on the phone trying to get that reduced. So I realize that, and look, I know that you've come before us and made comments in the past, and we take those things to heart. I really do. I know the rest of council does, and we look at ways to try to reduce any expense on any member of the public. And so, you know, I look at the things that we do need to do and need to improve. That's the reason why I was so adamant about getting some visuals, because people, you can talk about it all you want, and, you know, especially with staff, they use language that most people aren't familiar with, and so they don't know what a lift station is, or this item is, or this item is. So I'm very visual, and I think people, once they see what is required, I think they're more understanding. But I hope you have some assurance in knowing that as a city council, we're working very hard to try to see how we can wean ourselves off the utility tax, because it does bring a significant amount of money into the city to help pay for a lot of expenses. So that's one. And the other one is that really I feel the pain just like everybody else. Bills are piling up on my desk as well, and I have to pay them, and I don't like to pay whether that's $7.75 more a month, because I live in a world of multipliers. I don't just look at the monthly cost, I look at yearly costs. And I've been self-employed for many years, so I look at, if there's a $10 increase, that means it's $120 more a year. If there's a $20 increase, that's $240. You know, so I look in a world of multipliers, and when I see $200 coming out of my pocket in a yearly fashion, that's a lot of money for me. So that's just my comment to you, but I would assure you, Ms. Moreno, that we work hard at trying to make sure that the impact is as little as possible for everybody. Is there another comment from council?
Just, I would be willing to entertain something where we look at senior citizens that are on fixed income, that have a low income, and we can talk about that, I think, for the future and what we can do there. I'm willing to entertain that, as Councilmember Noriega brought up, so. And we can talk about that. I realize that this is a problem for people on a fixed income, and I think we're all very aware of that.
There's another comment from the public.
Chris Ferguson. It's been a long November. I'll warn you in advance. I'm neutral on the issue. I'll just say right now, you know, just to get that out of the way. But I think it would help if there was some progress, like a yearly progress report done through the council, through city staff, at a meeting similar to this, where we can see, okay, where is the money going? Is the broken lift station fixed? Is the are there any pipes that are getting repaired through this rate increase? I don't know. I think the priority is keeping the water fund solvent. That's what I've been getting. Yeah. And it has to be in a way that, you know, I love it when, as a member of the media, you give us more things to write about. Not everybody reads the newspaper or is on Facebook or anything like that. It needs to be in a public forum like this where people can hear it directly from you. Sure. So that would be my suggestion. Maybe not as an official part or like a review process, but, you know, every year, 6 months, something that says this is where your money is going.
Mr. Ferguson, thank you very much for your comment, and it's interesting that is part of a proposal that I'm going to present to council to see if we can get a motion to approve this matter here before us. Before us is a decision to make, and that's to increase or not to increase water and wastewater rates. And so, again, I think it's been expressed by all of council. We're very aware that any impact on your bills to increase is significant, and nobody wants to pay any more money. And I realize that the steps that we're taking are incremental, so the bill would go up X amount of dollars every year. Having said that, I would propose to council, I know that the staff has recommended that we start this on the first day of the year, 2016. I would propose that we implement this, if we were to approve it tonight, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Attorney, if we implement the water rates as they've been presented in the 218 process, we have the liberty to schedule that time, even though it's not on our schedule of proposed. As long as they don't go beyond that amount, is that correct? Okay. All right, so
Are you done with the public hearing now?
I am.
So you should close it.
I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. If there are no other public comment, there is one additional public comment. We'll close it right after that. There is.
Once again, I appreciate the work that all of you do, and it's kind of hard to, for some of us to not judge, but I guess in America we're very good about judging all the political figures. We should go beyond that and see the goal that is being presented and try to work with that. So once again, I appreciate all the work that all of you do. The idea of getting feedback from the progress of the pipes every 6 months, make it visual like you have tonight. And also, one thing I wanted to add, as you're doing this work, try to look and get the best. Get the best to make those pipes. Don't think of just the now, but think of your children, think of your grandchildren, think of the future of the city. Don't get the cheapest thing just because we don't have the money right now. Wait a little bit if you have to, but get the best, to put the best in those pipes. Because we may not see them, but sooner or later, we will see them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. There's another comment from the public, I believe.
Yeah, I have a question. I want to ask, when they did the water treatment plant, why wasn't that put into the budget that they were going to fix the pipes? Because they got a lot of money on that water treatment plant, and they said everything was going to be resolved. And now you guys are asking for more cash. What's up with that?
Well, we can get maybe some descriptive answer from our Public Works Director, but that's a project that's many years ago, and we can discuss it.
Sir, you talking about the water treatment plant or the wastewater treatment plant?
Water treatment.
Okay, the water treatment plant? Yes. And again, I think there was some pressure from the state when that happened. That water treatment plant and the dollars that it took to upgrade that had nothing to do with the pipelines. That was a whole separate project.
Yeah, the water.
It was certainly.
The water treatment plant was constructed during the year of 1998. It had some issues, and it was put in operation during the year 2000. All of the components, as well as structure, date to 1998. As I mentioned, is going into 17, 18 years pretty soon. The situation was that, as I understand, the water plant was located at 180 Southwestern Avenue. They had various Department of Drinking Water issues, and that was the reason for what they built the new water treatment plant on Willard. But they call it the new water treatment plant, and it's going on 18 years. So some of the projects that we're proposing in this critical list of projects, which were the VFDs and the PLCs, the programmable logic controllers, which is basically a computer software, and the variable frequency drives, they're gone beyond their life expectancy.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, thank you, Ms. Ariano. I mean, just to add to that, we're very fortunate we do have that water treatment plant, as the gentleman mentioned. Extremely costly, and there are many jurisdictions now that are challenged to do the same thing if they didn't do it already. And we're fortunate to have that, but just my own edification and everyone else's, I hope, the understanding here is when you're talking about water delivery to your home, there's a whole lot. There's a humongous network underground, most of which has been there for many, many decades. And we're not the only city with that. This country has aging infrastructure all throughout. There's 170,000 water systems in the United States. And just about every single one of them are challenged with the same issues. So the fact that we have a new water plant is just phenomenal, because now we're left with virtually, I think it's close to well over $100 million worth of underground infrastructure that we need to address. So we have two ways of doing that, proactively or reactively. And I think we've been reactive, we've shown that. I am not saying tonight after this that we're going to still be on the proactive side, but I will challenge our staff to continue to do everything they can do to be as proactive as we can and hopefully minimize the reaction that we're having, because these reactions cost us $600,000 last year in emergency repairs. The hope here is we start minimizing that. And I want to separate also, someone brought up utility user tax. Absolutely, there's a relationship there, but remember, utility user tax, those funds go directly into the general fund. They run the general fund, which is everything else that you see within the city. The water fund, the wastewater fund are separate funds that rely solely on rates being paid, unless we take advantage of some other grant or outside funding. So. Anyways, I just wanted to make that
And I would add to your comment, there's two things that never stop in Brawley. That's water flowing, it never stops, and wastewater flowing, that never stops. So you can imagine years and years and years and years of use, it's nonstop. And so whenever you turn on your faucet, that water's coming from somewhere. And whenever you flush that toilet, that's going somewhere and it's being processed. So they're critical systems, and I don't want to leave the public with the impression that the city's falling apart, because it's not. Our water treatment facility and our wastewater treatment facility are in good shape. It's just a lot of things in between those two facilities that need work. So that's the last comment that I'll make. But Councilmember Noriega, you had a...
Yes, my question is, we have a proposed water rates for 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 each year. Is there, when we go back every year and we check and see how we're doing, you know, if we're being successful, you know, are we ahead of the game? Is there a place that we can maybe not do 2017? We don't have to have that increase. That's a question I want.
And it is a good question. Part of the proposal that I was going to suggest here tonight, and again, I want to get beyond this meeting here tonight, and I think everybody's had great input to include the public. I know there's concern with respect to increases in rates, but here's a proposal I'd like for the council to consider. It's ultimately... I am going to close the public hearing at this time, I'm sorry. Any additional comments? There's one additional comment, then we'll close the public hearing after this comment.
Hello, I'm Sally Butler, and I just would like to add an analogy of what I've been hearing here is how everyone keeps kind of talking about the water plant, that it should have resolved all these issues and why are we having these problems. Well, I started looking at it. It's just like if we have a heart attack, that doesn't mean that everything's running fine. We still have to maintain preventative maintenance, and we don't want corrective maintenance. And I think if we all look at that, I don't know if I'm going kind of too deep into it, but it's us, and this is the heart of us. Otherwise, we're going to be in a, God forbid, we're in a horrible flood or earthquake. I mean, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So just with that said, thank you.
Thank you. And one final comment?
Yes, Mr. Nava.
Yes.
You said that water never stops flowing. Well, gas doesn't either, or electricity. So why are these rates not comparable to that?
We've had increases.
Those are completely different systems. With respect to the gas, we don't control that, or the electricity.
I know that. We're talking about water.
They've had increases also, sir.
Yeah.
Our gas.
Yeah, very little. Another thing, are you looking at employee raises with this money?
No. This is for, if you've seen the improvements that are being considered are for the improvements or the removal of the former water delivery systems.
So again, no employee raises, right?
We can have our city manager give a better explanation of that, to that particular comment.
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
What is included in the rate study is the cost of maintaining the system. There are no built-in increases in compensation that are a part of the financial model. It's a combination of the cost of maintenance of the system and the cost of the capital projects that are defined in the study.
Very well. I'm going to close the public hearing at this time, but I would thank you all very much for your comments. Having said that, I'll move on to the City Council here, and we have an important decision before us. Here's a proposal for your consideration. I know there's, in this, again, it won't satisfy everyone, but I'm going to try to make an effort to accommodate and satisfy people's concerns. I know that staff had proposed implementation on the first day of next year. I would propose that we begin this March 1st. That would give people more than 90 days to adjust. So that would be the first option there. And have a 6-month evaluation after the implementation of the new rates. And that, where we could see where the account balances are held at that point from a city staff perspective. And lastly, I would like to, just like we've done with other fee increases, I would, going along with Mr. Ferguson's comments, and this is something I'd written down, but have an evaluation period every 12 months before implementation of the next phase.
Okay.
So that would be 3 months. If we were to approve this tonight, I propose that we do that in March 1st of 2016. So that gives staff and the public and all of us time for the implementation to take place. 6-month evaluation after implementation to see where our fund balances are at and see how it's if it's near to the projections that were proposed by the consultant, and then a 12-month annual evaluation of the progress and determination of whether or not the second stage is going to be implemented.
So, Mayor, if I may say, so what you stand there on that, on the third part of that is that if there's another increase 12 months from now, it would have to be approved by council. Basically.
That's correct. But I would vote to approve all of the proposed increases now, but not have them be implemented unless it goes before City Council for approval.
Yeah.
Right. The only thing I would suggest maybe is when you talk about a 6-month evaluation as we go through the summer, March through whatever, there may be, you may get a skewed picture of what's going on. So, you know, I know the year will give us a good picture. I don't necessarily think that we don't have to go through a 6-month, but I think we need to be aware that the summertime may give us a skewed picture of water usage, because I'm sure people probably use maybe more water in the summer than they do in the winter. And so we're gonna, and here it just seems like with climate change and everything, that's what generally happens. So we may get a little bit of a look. We're gonna have to take a 6-month look, but it may be a little bit weird because it comes right after summer. So that's the only thing I would suggest we cautious of.
I think it's a great point, and I did consider that once I wrote that down, but I still think it would be important for us to at least look at that 6-month period of time and compare to what was raised in previous years, just as a comparison, to see if it's on track to what's being proposed.
I don't see that as long as we're cautious.
Mr. Mayor, and also, we could have other industrial users. So our volume of water, hopefully, if we continue doing what we're doing, can attract other business and industries. So as the gentleman brought up of, you know, we're conserving water, but at the same time, if we're moving more water because of user increased use, that also could have a difference on where we land with the funds. So I'm just stating that as we move forward in the future.
And also, if we can take into consideration, maybe talking about senior citizen discounts like our other utility bills offer.
We can look at that.
We could look at that. we will implement the first increase March 1 if we adopt this
If this is
proposal
adopted, right.
without further discussion, right?
If we adopt it today, the first phase of
Increase
the
would be
increase
March 1.
would begin March 1st, and then a 6-month evaluation after that, and then 12 months from the time of inception, evaluation with a
Then-
progress report.
then we would evaluate
And then we would
for the next
evaluate to see
increase before we
if
do
there is,
that.
exactly. And then it could be that we determine that no increase is necessary at the time.
Right, so we'll make that
Are
decision.
there any staff impacts, Mr. Mayor, that we can check with that proposal?
Did you want to ask that question?
Yes, if I could direct that at our city manager.
Staff input.
Of the Prop 218 noticing of the schedule, we were following the legal requirements to notify the public when you call out year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we're just doing a quick consultation with Bartle Wells to confirm that we can in fact pause in between the dates of implementation. Doug, if you'd like to provide some feedback on that front.
I think you'd have to adopt them all.
If
You
we
can
adopt
always
them all-
roll back, but you can't always increase. I
Right.
think you need to adopt this is off the top of my head. I think you have to adopt all the increases and reserve the right to roll back.
Right,
I don't
and
know.
that's what the motion would be, adopt them all, but, right. That's the other element.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Doug Dove with Bartle Wells Associates. Our rate increase schedule originally was October 1st, 2015, then July 1st, 2016, and July 1st, 17, 18, and 19. So if we move the implementation to March 1st, 2016 for the first increase, then maybe we would want to move the July till later, also defer that one.
Everything
And as
would
far
move.
as I know and I've heard, it's okay to defer the increases from what was noticed. It's just not okay to accelerate them. So we're talking
Right.
about deferring the increases, and I think that's okay for Prop 218.
Well, that answers our question, thank you.
From here to here.
Thank you for that clarification.
You could go as long as you want.
Okay.
Are we going to set the dates for the additional increases at this time, or are we going to go?
I would leave that open. We are setting the first date, and this is part of what I would propose. Again, it's still up to council to approve it, but again, it would be, just to clarify, the proposal that I'm submitting would be implement this on March 1st, 2016 for the first increase.
Okay.
Okay? And a 6-month evaluation after that, and that's just for an evaluation purpose. 12-month progress report, and at that time, we would determine whether or
March
not we
to
make.
March.
Yes, we would make the
And then
determination.
and then
And
additional.
that would continue.
If it
Right.
goes 2017 to March 2018, 2019.
Right. Does that make sense for everyone, or?
Yeah, but yes.
Makes sense.
Because even when we had it down here in October to July, that was only 9 months. So I was like, we're not even giving us a year.
I think we met.
I just want to make sure, Mr. Mayor, that your proposal is that you're
Adopting all the
adopting the rates as proposed,
Proposed.
and then we're talking about implementation.
Different dates.
So the record's perfectly clear that these are the rates, it's just a question of when they'll be implemented.
And we're reserving the
Otherwise,
right,
we'll have to go
yeah,
through this whole process again.
Yes.
to not increase an incremental raise as well.
You can't,
Yeah.
you can't increase, you can always decrease.
Yeah.
You can always decrease.
But you
Yes,
can't
ma'am.
increase.
Okay.
In other words, we can't increase.
Well, we're not going to increase.
Okay, so having had the clarification from our legal counsel and our consultant, I'll make the motion. Before I make the motion, I would just ask the public and assure you that not only myself, but the rest of council, city staff, our consultant, our attorney, and everyone else, we've given careful consideration to everything that we've done. And I've considered all the comments that have been made and concerned with respect to increased bills. I'm on board with you. I don't want to pay any more. But what we're trying to do now is reduce the impact for every resident. And we're extending the opening date, if this motion is approved, extending the opening date instead of having it start January 1st, make it March 1st, and then it gives us every 12 months an evaluation period. So what was suggested earlier with respect to giving a progress report, that's what I want to make sure that happens every year before council decides to provide a further increase, if one is provided at that time. Does that make sense for everybody? I hope it does. But I would ask you all to please, just like I need your support, you need my support, council needs your support, please be supportive of the city council. We do everything, and I can say from the bottom of my heart, we really do everything we can to try to lessen the impact on everybody. I know it's difficult for everybody. It's certainly difficult for us to be up here and make a decision where, you know, many other councils have maybe pushed that issue aside and pushed it aside. We're here making a decision. It's a difficult one, I'll tell you that. I look you all in the eye and I'll tell you the same thing every day. It's very, very difficult. So I would ask for your support and please, you know, give consideration to my fellow council members too. I know they go through a very difficult time making decisions that are difficult for everyone. So here's my proposal and here's my motion. I make a motion that we adopt the rates as proposed, with the start date, the implementation date being March 1st, 2016, and that we have a 6-month evaluation period after the implementation date, and that we have a 12-month evaluation period before implementation every year thereafter. So that is my motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Yes.
Offer just one comment of clarification.
Yes, please.
With regard to the capital improvement projects on the water and wastewater side, the changes that are proposed for implementation will affect the projects that we pursue in the program year, because we're reducing the number of dollars that are available for system corrections. So I just want to be sure that the implementation side, there's a effect on the implementation side for corrections.
Understandably so.
In your strategic plan meeting, there were certain projects in there, so if those funds aren't there,
They won't be
They
delivered.
get pushed back or whatever.
Well, as of right now, just to comment on that, we're moving forward with, we're obviously we're delaying by 90 days, so I know there'll be an impact there, but those things need to be brought up to our attention during the evaluation. The other thing, it gives us an opportunity to see the financial performance of these incremental increases, so.
Understood. On the pages of your lineup for capital improvement projects, for water in particular, we front load corrections into the system. So they're all occurring in year one, just so you know. So this, we would not implement all of the year one because we can't reasonably assume that the remainder will be carried out. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of the trade-off in that regard, because the program year is being pushed into the future 5-year time horizon, not in the early years.
Very well. There is a motion, there is a second. Any further discussion from council? Any questions from council? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. And thank you all very much for your public input. And again, it's a difficult decision for us to make. It certainly is for me. And I just please ask you to be supportive of us, and we will provide those updates at the 6-month evaluation period and 12 months thereafter. So thank you again. All right, we're going to move on to City Council member reports. And we'll begin with Council Member Noriega.
Okay, went to the chili cook-off, and I'm just going to do a run because it's going to take a long time. Farmers Market, the Farmers Market was, for me, it seemed a lot more salespeople out there and a lot of different other things. Did a good job, Jason. And then we went to the Kiwanis kiosk rededication, the cattle call kickoff mixer, the cowboy poetry. We had a nice young man, I'm not sure how old he was, like 10 years old, and you would have to sit there and listen to him. He made us laugh. He talked about his sisters who were the queen, and that all their glittery outfits had to go into his closet. Anyway, going on to that, then we had the Veterans Memorial Wall dedication, the ceremony, and then we had the mariachi night right after. I went to the Call Bell cook-off. Sunday, the American Legion had the rib plate fundraiser, did really well there. Also went to the Elks Barbecue and Dance, second annual civic initiative to recognize the elementary school award for civics, which was absolutely fantastic. We're starting down to kindergarten all the way up to high school. It's amazing what these young kids, even little kindergartens, they were able to tell you who the president was. And so for them to get the civics going all the way down to kindergarten, I just love. I think that kids will be so much more advanced by the time they get to high school. And I want to thank all the teachers that are proposing and doing the civics program. Again, thank you to Jason and all the chamber people for all the great festivities, and especially our staff who put in hours and hours of their time to put from the fire department to the police department to our maintenance and all the crews that we had out there. God bless you all, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Couchman.
Okay. The Kiwanis kiosk dedication, I attended that. Thank you to our chiefs, by the way, for their good work over there, and the other city employees that worked on that. And they diligently worked on that, because I went over and watched them work, and so that, I know they did. So
They thank you for
great.
going over there.
Yeah,
Sam.
no, they didn't, but I know they should have. Also attended the art walk, and I thought it was a pretty good event. They did a lot of things, and I think they're going to do some more this fall, so there'll be more art walks. And I urge everybody to attend that at least once to see what that's like. It's a very interesting art show, art walk, and then there's food, there's entertainment. Very nice event that's put on, and it's kind of off the plaza, so it's over in the alleyway back towards the American Legion and in that parking lot. So it's really kind of a neat thing. Attended the chili cook-off, attended the chamber mixer, attended at the Stockman's the cowboy poetry, the Vets Memorial event, the mariachi night. I did attend the I went to the Mulberry School and did a historical presentation on cowboys, and also was there when the Cattle Call Queens came out to Mulberry School. Very nice event with the children there at the school. Attended the rodeo dinner on Friday, attended the Elks Lodge dance on Friday, bought the Elks Club barbecue, which I'm an Elks member. The Elks appreciate city support for that activity, and I did eat the Elks barbecue, although not at the Elks. And then also attended the Cattle Call Parade and was in the parade. I appreciate your support there. While I was riding, nobody threw anything at me or anything, and that's always nice.
They just missed. It wasn't
I expected it, but I didn't receive any. So that worked out really well. And then several parties afterwards. And also on Sunday, I also attended the Sunday Rodeo. I thought it was a real nice event. The wind came up later on, but overall, great events, a great week for Brawley. And thank you to the Chamber for all that they do, and just a great thing with the city employees, and the fact that we're able to put on an event like that in such a small town, an event of such magnitude, because it was large. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Couchman. Councilmember Campbell.
Wonderful, wonderful time. I want to thank staff and everybody involved for not just putting the city of Brawley on the map, but keeping us there. There are so many people come through doing cattle call time and having a good time and fun nights and all the events that my colleagues have mentioned. You know, we enjoy those and we look forward to those, and they were fantastic. So I just want to say thank you to you guys, and I ask that God continue to watch over you guys and your family and keep us together and keep us strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. Mayor Pro Tem Wharton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cattle Call Mixer at Inferno. I also attended the BUHS Second Annual Civics Award, Veterans Wall Ceremony, Mariachi Festival, which I think set another record or benchmark, Mr. Zara, right? We're estimating 8,000. Who knows? We lose count, but fantastic to see that. Also had our Brawley Business Advisory Committee meeting. We'll have hopefully some good news of some of the work that's been done there to report here soon. Some of the projects that committee has taken on. Also, the Rodeo Cattle Call Committee Appreciation, I guess I call it dinner, more of a ceremony at Stockman's. And then, of course, the parade, all the Elks stuff. I didn't make it. I intended to go to the barbecue, but I didn't get past the bar, so I apologize. And then obviously the rodeo and on many of the after parties. I was fortunate. We had my son in also from town. He took 3 days of leave from his duties with the Air Force, so it was neat to have him in town and enjoy some of these festivities with family. Want to wish everyone a great Thanksgiving, staff, citizens, my fellow council members. I hope you enjoy your time both with your family and friends, and want to continue to count our blessings and be very thankful for the city we have and the people that we get to share it with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I also was able to attend many of the events that were mentioned previously. One comment I would like to make is I would like to know if we can determine what the economic impact of Catacall is. I can assure you it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that come into Brawley. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So not just the day of the parade, but mariachi night, from the hotel stays, from the consumption, from the restaurant, and everything
Just
that's
Joel's
done.
consumption alone.
Right, just Joel's
Yeah,
consumption is
yeah.
probably in the thousands.
Joey, did you say consumption?
Yeah.
Consumption.
And so there is certainly an impact of economics in play there. So, I think there's a lot of money that's generated, and I think we need to be able to take advantage of that year after year. So I think something we overlook. But at any rate, I think that's important for us to determine at some point. I know within the film industry, we have our own measures, and we can determine with some degree of certainty what a project brings in, and I can assure you that this is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Another item, the kiosk rededication, beautiful event, and thank you to the city staff that volunteered their time to make those improvements, and certainly thank the Kiwanis for providing the materials and the resources, very much appreciated. The Veterans Day Memorial was beautiful as well, and we attended mariachi night, and there was thousands and thousands of people out there. Beautiful event, and I'm glad that they're back downtown. So, that little project that we worked on, Taking Back Main Street, is sort of helped spur a lot of things downtown, which I'm very proud of. And Jason, you're doing a great job out there with the chamber. So, I also attended the leadership initiative with Mr. Flores of BUHS. In advance of that, I was able to visit many classrooms where they're learning about civics and the things of that nature. In fact, one of the classes was a first to third grade class where they had their small ASB at Oakley School, and they were learning about civics by watching Schoolhouse Rocks, which I thought was awesome. So, I thought that was so great. Yeah, it was fantastic. I think we need a class with Schoolhouse Rocks too. So, but chili cook-off, of course, and the art walk was wonderful as well. A lot of other things that took place, but I want to thank city staff. I want to thank the chamber and everybody, of course, city council and everyone else involved to make the events happen that took place this past week. A lot of activity. I also would like to thank the public that's still here for their voice during the election. I know Councilmember Campbell, you've been a tremendous pleasure to work with, and I'll save my comments for our next meeting, but my heart's always with you, and I've been with you since I started here, and you've been a great friend and a tremendous leader, so thank you for that. And again, I'd like to thank everybody else, and I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving with your family and your friends, and I hope you get to enjoy that and relax a little bit. I know it's been an active past few months for us, and I'm looking forward to just taking a little bit of a break. But again, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and thank you all for working hard and making Brawley a success. Mr. Zara, you had one other comment regarding the water rates, or is it?
Economic impact of the mariachi night alone, to give you an example, we had 25 vendors out there. Several of them had to close down early because they sold out of food. One of the vendors told me they sold 1,000 tacos at $2 a piece.
Yeah.
So I would say that right on Main Street, there were probably between $50,000 and $100,000 in sales at one night alone. So
Right.
I think the overall economic impact of cattle call is clearly probably $250,000 to $500,000,
Yeah, if not more.
immediate, and then when you carry that out to the hotels and the other industries,
Right.
I would easily be comfortable saying it's probably $1 million impact.
$1 million, absolutely. I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Especially
that
with the alcohol.
Well, food, alcohol, everything else. I mean, just a small
The
party.
consumption.
Don't say alcohol, say
Oh, excuse
consumption.
me, consumption.
Consumption. That's what that is. Yeah.
I will say that the beer garden is very good for the chamber's budget for the year.
Yeah.
Thank
Good,
you for
good,
that.
good. Well, thank you for that. But again, thank you all very much. Happy Thanksgiving, and thank you all for moving forward with the 218 process. I know it's been a tedious process for all of us, and I really do appreciate all the work that you've done, from the visual aids to the clarifications from Yasmin and Ruby and our city manager and our consultant. Thank you all very much. So we're going to move on, and the next is our city manager's report.
Very brief announcements. The first is, the first week of December, we will be hosting the tree lighting ceremony at the kiosk. We'll be sending the date out to you. It is looking like it will be the night preceding the Angel Tea at the library. So I believe it's December 2nd. I'm sorry, I don't have the date right in front of me. December 2nd, we'll be coordinating with our school partners and other members of the community, and we look forward to everybody joining and lighting up the park, Plaza Park.
Yes, and I have some checks coming in for some trees.
Wonderful.
So anyone who wants to donate $125 for a tree to be lit up, please do so. Make the check out to NOCA.
Wonderful. And then item 2 is just an item of note on our city council agenda tonight. It states that our next regular council meeting will occur at the Lions Center. That is actually not the case. It will occur back at city council chambers. We'll resume our normal meeting time and location for the first meeting in December. And then lastly, just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware, Friday for most of our offices, such as finance, library, admin office, anything that's non-public safety, will be closed on Friday. So the Friday following Thanksgiving. So next week is a short week for the city, working through Wednesday, and very grateful for our public safety personnel who fill in the gaps while the rest of us are off. So with that, I have no other announcements.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have just a question and clarification on the tree lighting. The donations to NOCA, Councilor Noriega, is that those who donated, because I was asked this, that donated last year, did they buy lights that we've stored? Do they go back up, or how does that work?
All of the lights are inventoried and are stored at Parks and Recreation. We do make them available for downtown events, so we actually check them out.
Okay.
And if they come back damaged or missing, the parties that check them out are responsible for replacement.
Replacement. Okay, so this is additional because we're lighting more trees
Oh,
and all that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
I understand.
Because remember,
Okay.
we have a little over 100 trees.
I think 93 was the
that's
total
right.
count or something like
We
that.
cut some down.
But we still have our lighting
We have
inventory from last year, too.
many
Okay.
trees left to light.
Thank you.
Next is our city attorney's report.
Well, nothing as city attorney, but as a resident, it's my favorite time of year, and I thank council and staff as a Brawley resident for how much fun it is. You know, I grew up in Pacific Beach, which is probably the nicest part of San Diego, and it doesn't have anything compared to Brawley for fun things to do.
Cool. More red cups sold during this time of year than anything.
Beach may feel good.
Thank you very much. Next is city clerk's report. Nothing to report. We're going to adjourn this to our next regular meeting, Tuesday, December 1st at 6 p.m. at our regular meeting place. Thank you all very much.